Hi, YouTube. Happy Saturday. I hope your day has been good so far. My day was really good. I went shopping in Eindhoven in the Netherlands and I bought a lot of stuff for my holiday that's coming up next week. So I'm really excited for that. I just got home and I decided that today I was not going to do a normal gameplay video, what I usually do. I'm going to give you 5 decks that I think are a really good choice if you want to either climb to legend, either for the first time, or if you've done it before, it doesn't matter, or if you are in legend and you want to climb to a higher legend rank. I would say give these 5 decks a try if you want to go a bit quicker. Maybe these are like really good decks in the current meta. I didn't just come up with this myself, obviously. I didn't just I didn't just think like, what decks am I gonna give you now? No, I had a look at this website, Vicious Syndicate. Now, for you who don't know what that is, this is a website that posts a lot of Hearthstone related content, like deck lists, meta reports, weekly reports based on stats and like throughout the whole rank of Hearthstone, like in Legend, in 1K Legend, Diamond, like everything. They take the stats, they see these are good decks, these are upcoming decks, like this is what people are trying, and every week they have a report that you can read. I think it's really useful if you want to get better, if you want to have a better understanding of the meta, to at least every now and then give this report a quick read or look over it. I'm going to show you now what I have here in front of me. So this is this week's report. We are looking at the power rankings. And I selected Diamond 1 to Diamond 4 because this is what you're going to be facing the most. These are the best decks in Diamond 5 to Diamond 4. So if you are going for Legend, these are the decks you want to be playing. So here we have Tier 1. There is, like, you can see it, a lot of different decks at the moment are Tier 1 in Diamond 1 to 5. Then we have a look at Legend. These are almost all the same decks here. Only one difference is that Mag Paladin in Legend is also a Tier 1, and it was Tier 2 in Diamond 5 to Diamond 4 to Diamond 1. But we're gonna have a look again at Diamond 1 to 4. So if you want to hit Legend, these are like the best decks you can play to get there like as fast as possible with the best win rate. So I've picked 5 of these in the Tier 1 list that I think are a solid pick and also just fun to play. So I'm going to go over the list that I picked for you now. So let's have a look. First list is Murloc Unholy. This is a deck that I already did a video on a few days ago. I think it's a really strong deck. Also, the games are quite fast. So every game, yeah, it only takes a few minutes usually because you either you have the board or you don't have it, and you need the board to kill. Because what you want to do is build a big board with some sticky minions if possible, and then go for a Grave Strength lethal. It's kind of like Bloodlust and Shaman, you know, you just give all your minions extra attack and you go face and you kill the opponent. I saw that Pozic was also included in the list. Now, it's a very, very solid card, I think. I think most board decks should run this card because it's just so good. How do you play this deck? So you always want to have just a good curve. So you want to look for 1-drops, 2-drops. The best curve you can possibly get is turn 1 Body Bagger into turn 2. Where is he? Battlefield Necromancer, because you insta get a corpse from the Body Bagger, and the Necromancer needs a corpse to summon a 1/3 taunt. So then that means by turn 2 you have a 1/3 Body Bagger on the board, a 2/3 Necromancer, and a 1/3 taunt to protect your other minions. Also look for the Rancher because this makes sticky boards because all your minions get Death Rattle. Anything else? Well, this list runs Murloc. So when you play Ravager, you can draw your Murloculas and you can draw Amalgams and Mermies. So you need to keep in mind that that's what the Gorlock is going to draw. Murloculas will be 0 mana most of the time because you have so many minions, it will be easy to infuse it. It's also very good if you can combo it with Rancher, for example. So 3 mana Rancher and then like a 0-cost Murlocula, it gets buffed. It's easy to do that. And of course, in the late game, there is a Lord Marrowgar. You will have lots of corpses, right? So you'll have a lot of big boys with rush. So you can either use them to clear your opponent's board or just as a big threat, and your opponent has one turn to deal with it, and if they can't, they kind of die. Personally, I really like this deck. If you are into board-based games, I think you should give this one a try as well. So that was the first deck, Unholy Murloc. Second deck, Pure Paladin. Now this deck has been around for a long time, it feels like, right? Because it was already pretty good before the expansion Festival of Legends, and with the expansion, it still sees play. There are some new cards in it. I think the deck is just really strong. The only consideration now is some lists don't run Order in Court anymore. I personally play a list that still runs 1. Because you kind of want to look for that Countess anyway, because that's the most fun part of the deck, let's face it. You can just play Countess, get your 3 legendary invitations in your hand, and then a lot of times you just win the game the turn after with your 0-cost legendaries that you're going to discover. How do you play it? Well, it's just kind of curving again. You want to look for 1-drops. The Disco Mole is also very good, and in some matchups you kind of need it to push a lot of face damage in 1 turn. For example, against Blood DK, you want to equip this early, but you don't want to use it until the late game when you try to stick 1 or 2 minions on the board. And preferably you buff the Disco Mole up to like +10, +11, +12 attack. And then you can like kind of try to OTK them with it, because they are really good at removing boards and healing. So you need something like to have a big push in 1 turn. And the Disco Mole really helps with that if you can just not use the second swing too early. Anything else you need to keep in mind? Well, the Light Rays got nerfed a while ago, so they're on 10 mana now. So it's a little harder to get them down to 0, but it's still possible, and they still should be in the deck, I think. Okay, so this is the second deck, Pure Paladin. It's one of my favorite decks. I haven't played it this month yet, but I know it's still strong because my opponents sometimes play it, and it's really, really hard to deal with it once they have like a solid board. Okay, so third deck is Totem Shaman. Now, this has a lot of cards from the new expansion and the core set as well. Very fun deck. The point is just you summon totems, you buff them, and you kill your opponent, like with Bloodlust. Lots of totem synergy, obviously. So you have Mistake, it's also a totem. Schooling is just very good to deal with some opponent's boards. It's easy to take some trades. Totemic Evidence, just again summon totems. And same for Tour Guide. And if you play a lot of totems, like in the early game, what you can do is you can just play the Giga Totem for maybe even you can get it down to 0 quite easily. But also, even if it's like 1 or 2 mana, it's still an 8/8. And not a lot of decks can deal with that if it comes down early. Same for the thing from below. It gets discounted for each totem you've summoned the game. So you only need to summon 6, which is quite easy to do, and this will cost 0 mana. Then once you have a white board, you wanna play Rotgill, because this gives your minions, all your minions, a death rattle. Give your minion +1/+1. So whenever one of your minions dies, all your other minions get +1/+1. So what you can do sometimes is just trade a few of your minions in. The rest of your board gets really buffed, and you can either go for lethal or make it very hard for your opponent to deal with your boards. Another interesting card that you kind of want to look for in the early game already is Stone Ride. Because once you've played this, for the rest of the game, your totems will have to attack. So sometimes it can happen that you have like a whole board of totems and they don't have attack. So you can't really like push any damage with them without Bloodlust. But then you need the Stone Ride, and bam, they have to attack for the rest of the game. Easy. Also, the Grand Totem Eyesore is one of the best totems you can get. Because at the end of every turn, when this is on the board, it gives +1/+1 to all the totems that are already on board, or in your deck, or in your hand. So it buffs all your totems wherever they are, kind of. And that makes it kind of hard for your opponent to deal with it sometimes as well. Anchor Totem, also an interesting one that you can do some cool combos with. After you summon a 1-cost minion, give it +2/+1. Keep in mind, when you press Hero Power, your Hero Power costs 2, but the totem you summon is actually a 1-drop. So if you played the Anchor Totem and you Hero Power, the totem you summon is going to get +2/+1 as well. It also works very, very well with schooling because all the fish are 1-drops too. So they also get +2/+1, like instantly when you play them. So again, the goal with this board is to try and keep a sticky board. And that's how you kill your opponent, because there is no burst damage. You need to do it with the board. So if you lose the board, try to go for a second, a third wave, because this is the only way you'll be able to win with this deck. You need to keep some board. But this is a very strong deck. Not a lot of decks can deal with like how much you can keep making new boards and more and more and more, and just try and push for lethal. So definitely, if you haven't tried it, I would give this deck a go. Then the fourth deck is Outcast Demon Hunter. Since the new expansion was released, Festival of Legends, people have been complaining about this deck, right? Because it was really one of the stronger decks right after the expansion. And even though it already got nerfed a little bit, I think it's still really strong. You can push a lot of damage with this deck. And I think even though the Wallopers got nerfed, they're still very, very good. So what you want to do with this deck is you have like small minions that you can play at the start of the game. Then you have this Wretched Exile, which every time you play an Outcast card, you get a random Outcast card to your hand. So you kind of want to maybe keep some of your Outcast cards in your hand and then combo it in the mid game with the Exile, so you get a lot of value. And you can make lots of cheap boards with this one, because you can get, for example, the Fierce Outsider, which is very good. It can take a trade. Also, it discounts your next Outcast card by 1. So you play this with the Exile, you get a random Outcast card in your hand. It will already cost 1 less. So you can just maybe play a little bit more. There is a Rancher here to make your boards a little bit stickier. Of course, Lady Steno is still very, very strong. You have Predation, you have lots of cheap spells to either clear a board or try and push for lethal damage. Also, the Glaivetar, this weapon is mega strong, right? Because you play it, you equip it, and while this is equipped, every time you play an Outcast card, you draw one more card, like the Death Rattle is draw 1 card, but every time you play an Outcast card, it increases that draw by 1. So you don't have to be afraid to just play your whole hand, because you have a refill with the weapon anyway. And then there is Halveria, of course. When this is on the board, and you have other rush minions as well that you can either get, like, for example, Fierce Outsider. The 1/1s from Security also are rush minions. And the Wallopers too. So when you have these on the board with Halveria, and one of them attacks all your other minions, gain +1 attack. So you can do some cool combos with that and buff your board, either taking trades or hitting your opponent in the face. But this is like a really big threat, and your opponent has to deal with it or they die, basically. So I think that this is a very cool deck as well. It may be a little trickier. It looks quite easy, but you need to like think a little bit about how to spend your resources. But very, very strong deck if you want to go for Legend, or even in Legend as well. And then the last deck that I have for you is Blood Death Knight. I picked this one because all the other 4 decks that I chose for the Legend grind are like board-based decks, right? A bit faster matchups, and I thought maybe we should have a control deck in here as well, because not everyone enjoys these faster games or board-based matchups. So I think Blood Death Knight is still a very, very solid deck. Because as you can see, all my other 4 decks are board decks. And they are very, very popular. So if you play Death Knight into them, there is a good chance you might beat them. Because you have so many ways of removing the board and healing. And then in the late game, summoning your own bigger minions. For example, with the Banshee and the Mograine, and with Patchwork, you can just remove some of their board and kill some of their minions. So yeah, you played this out as a control deck, obviously. And again, there's a dirty rat in here. I already said it in my previous video. Be careful when you play the rat. There's some matchups where you can play it on 2 and it's perfectly fine. But there's some matchups you don't want to do that because you are risking pulling out a really big minion on turn 2 and you won't be able to deal with it, and it can cost you the game. And I've seen people doing this. Yesterday, I was playing Big Demon Hunter on ladder, and my opponent played Dirty Rat on 2. I had four big minions in my hand, and they pull a big minion and they can't deal with it, and they kind of just instantly have to leave the game. So don't do that unless you know that you can deal with whatever you pull out. That being said, in some matchups, it's fine to play it on 2, right? If you are against an aggro deck, they usually don't have big minions anyway. So it can be okay, I'd say, to play it on 2 because there is a taunt in front. You are a little bit protected anyway. But be careful, think about it. Think about it before you play the rat. Also, the newer builds of Blood DK run Sketchy Stranger now. So this is just a solid 2-drop. You get to discover a secret from another class. Usually on turn 3, 4, you can just play that secret out. And let's see. Oh, the ETC, that's the big question always, right? What's in the ETC? So let's see the band here. So in this ETC, we have a Steam Cleaner, a Rivendare, and a Theothar. So the Steam Cleaner is very, very good in the mirror, for example, because your opponent will want to play a Rivendare to win the game in the late game, right? But if you Steam Cleaner after they played Rivendare and after it died, and it shuffled the 3 horsemen into their deck, you can play Steam Cleaner and it deletes all the cards in their deck that didn't start there. So that means those 3 horsemen, they're gone. So they can't beat you with Rivendare anymore. In other control matchups, you kind of want to pick Rivendare yourself. You just need to keep in mind that a lot of control decks at the moment do run a Steam Cleaner in their ETC, so there is always a small risk of your horseman getting destroyed. And then Theothar, good against maybe, I'd say, Druids, maybe. You want to like kind of yoink a combo piece, maybe, so they can't go Tony Jailer, and because that's the main problem for you against Druid is the Tony Jailer combo, and you kind of just die to fatigue. Anything else important here? I don't think so. So I would say I didn't present these decks in any particular order, so I think any of these are fine to go and grind your ladder. Pick your favorite one. I will put all the deck codes in the description. And if you like this video, guys, leave a comment, press the like button, subscribe, and let me know which one of the decks you tried. For now, I'm gonna wish you a good weekend, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye!